What's up, everybody? My name is Jericholic8704, and I'm here to apologize. It's the second installment of Is Jericholic8704, and I've already fucked up. Look, I meant to get this out earlier, but the problem was I had a really busy week, but I knew I had a little window of time in which I could watch this episode of Raw, take notes, and record, and, edit around the commentary and, produce a video and everything. But when I recorded, the audio file was corrupted. I don't know why, but the point is I lost that precious time I had to actually make the video, so now I kind of have to improvise, and I'm recording this at like 10:15 on a Saturday night, barely trying to make this week deadline. If it's Sunday morning, who gives a fuck? Only 6 people watch this anyway, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. Anyway, I am here to review Raw from May 19th, 2003 from Greensville, South Carolina, Flair Country as they like to call it. This is the post-Judgment Day 2003 show. It opened up with a promo from Stone Cold. Stone Cold said he ate food, drank some beer, he watched some damn good matches, and, I didn't watch the pay-per-view, obviously. I mean, I watched Judgment Day 2003 maybe like 10 years ago, but from what I remember, Judgment Day 2003 was not the most, let's just say, the smoothest of shows. From what I remember, it kind of sucked. It did have that really good ladder match with Team Angle and the Guerreros. Other than that, nothing else really noteworthy on that show. And they showed the replay of Bischoff and Austin in their box watching the pay-per-view. And, Bischoff and Austin kind of got into a little bit of a drinking match. And Bischoff threw up like 600 times. And they showed the replay 600 times. I mean, it was just, after one time, I understood the problem of Bischoff throwing up constantly, but God, it was just awful. They'd show it, they'd rewind it, they'd do it in slow motion, they did every single thing, and to the point where I was tired of it. So Stone Cold Steve Austin was having a great time, and then he said, the next pay-per-view, Stone Cold presents Bad Blood, and this is actually kind of a weird moment in 2003, because Bad Blood marked the first brand-exclusive pay-per-view, and they'd be that way, with the exception of the big four pay-per-views. Pay-per-views would be brand exclusive until, I believe, No Way Out 2007. So this is actually a pretty big turning point in WWE. This is when brand exclusive pay-per-views started. And he said 100% satisfaction guaranteed for Bad Blood 2003. And from what I remember, Bad Blood 2003 kind of fell flat. The card was good, I thought, but it kind of fell flat. Anyway, I will say the main event I think is kind of underrated, but yeah, that's just me. And then we had Triple H coming out. Triple H, as we all know, is still the World Heavyweight Champion, despite the fact that he lost his match. He lost it via disqualification. And then Kevin Nash powerbombed Triple H through the announce table. And this looked like it kind of sucked because Nash did not clear off the announce table. He literally picked him up and jackknifed him. And Triple H kind of hit the monitors. He kind of hit that table cover. Looked like it sucked for Triple H. So I'm sure he was actually a little hurt. And he was selling a rib injury. But I bet that wasn't a nice bump he took. Steve Austin said, look, you got your ass kicked. You took the easy way out. You hit a ref in the chest with a sledgehammer. So you know what? You're competing tonight. And Triple H is like, fuck you. I'm the champ. I call the shots. Austin says, fuck you. I'm the GM. And he says, I'll be generous. You can pick who you're going to wrestle tonight, but it has to be a former world champion. And then Stone Cold said, so if it's a former world champion, you have 4 options: Kane, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, and Kevin Nash. And I thought about this for a second, and I thought, damn, there's only 4 champions on Raw, and 5 if you include Triple H. And I thought about that, and I was just like, well, it makes sense because, there's 5 on Raw. And then look at SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown, former champions, you'd have, Taker, Angle, Lesnar, Big Show. Big Show's one of them. I think that's it. So, combine those guys, you have maybe 9 overall former world champions. I mean, Rock and Austin were gone and other guys like that. But, yeah, and I thought about that, and I'm like, that's a really thin number, especially in 2003 when the roster was kind of deep. They did the whole brand extension because the roster was so deep. And I thought about it, and it was just kind of weird because if I think about today, in 2016, how many former champions do we have? And not only that, how many former champions do we have that aren't in the main event scene? Let me just start naming former champions that are still active today in 2016. I mean, we got Jericho, Cena, Rollins, Orton, Reigns, Sheamus, Del Rio. I'm at 7 right now. I'm sure there's more. Big Show, Kane, there's 9. And I mean, of course, I can't think of more off the top of my head. I mean, I'm sure throughout this entire recording, more names will pop into my head. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot more former champions, and I feel like that's because they're just throwing the belt around. And I mean, in 2003, the belt wasn't as, sacred as it was in the previous generations. I mean, like, by the Attitude Era, long title reigns were starting to not become the norm, if you know what I mean. It was about, the kind of like, couple month title reign to the point where you had multi-time champions and a lot more guys winning the title. And again, I think that kind of value, that makes the value of the championship a lot higher when not a lot of people get it. I mean, sure, you want to share the wealth. You don't want one guy as your world champion for, for the entire era of wrestling. But you do want a select number of guys, like a handful of guys, to have that title. That way, when someone new wins it, it's like, oh, they've joined this esteemed class. But now anyone and their mom can win the WWE Championship. That's how they get people over. I mean, was Sheamus really ready for his first WWE Championship? I'm not picking on Sheamus, but like really, Jack Swagger. That's another one. And look where Jack Swagger is. Jesus Christ. But yeah, Swagger and Sheamus are two great examples. They weren't ready for their titles, but they've joined this esteemed list of legends and just landmarks in this wrestling business on people who've won the world title. So I just think the numbers seem thin. It kind of shook me up a little bit, but then I realized the shorter the number, the better it is. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's my little mini rant on that. So after that, he said the former world champions, and then I was looking in the ring and I was like, shouldn't he pick Ric Flair, who's also a 16-time world champion and Triple H's best friend? And lo and behold, Triple H actually did. So that got a pop from me. I cheered. Now, I do remember this Raw. As soon as he picked Ric Flair and they said Ric Flair and Triple H was in the main event, I remembered everything about this Raw, at least the main event angle between Flair, Triple H, and HBK. I do remember that kind of angle going in my head. I just needed this little refresher, and then I remembered everything about this show. But yeah, so it was a good opening segment. Nothing wrong with it. You got Austin and Triple H, who are always good together, so no complaints from me. Then we had a tag team match, Dudley Boyz versus 3 Minute Warning. Unfortunately for 3 Minute Warning, they got the jobber entrance. Dudley Boyz got a real entrance. The opening spot of this match was the traditional, baby faces run in the ring and they beat the shit out of the heels. Devon and Bubba were throwing bombs at 3 Minute Warning. And then all of a sudden, Bubba Ray did a drop kick. And this was probably one of the worst drop kicks I've ever seen in my life. It was more of a back bump. It literally was like Bubba jumped and did a back bump. And like either Jamal or Rosie, whoever he was facing off against, literally ran into his feet. Like that's literally what it was. This is the worst drop kick of all time. And I don't think I've ever seen Bubba Ray throw a drop kick. And I think this is why. Anyway. 3 Minute Warning gets a low bridge on Devon. They get the heat. Jamal goes for the splash. Devon gets the knees up. He does a hot tag to Bubba. Bubba runs wild for a bit. Rosie cuts him off. There's a double suplex to Rosie. They do the what's up spot. Get the tables. Jamal baseball slides the table and hits a Samoan drop. That was a pretty cool moment. He went for the pin, but he was the legal man. Rosie was the legal man, not Jamal. So the pinfall didn't count. Jamal sets up a table. He goes for the splash, misses. He does a 3D to Rosie for the pin. This match actually wasn't all that bad. 2.25 stars. It was fine. It was your typical tag team match, like a typical Dudley's tag team match. But Jamal and Rosie, they look slow. They look kind of clunky, but they actually were very good. We all know Jamal was Umaga and how great Umaga was. So both of those, Jamal and Rosie, both of them could go in the ring. So this is a fine match. Nothing wrong with it. Rico's all pissed at both of them after the match, and he says he's leaving. 3 Minute Warning. He dips. He walks out of the ring. He's all mad. Storms up the stage, and his "You Look So Good" theme music plays. Then we have the backstage segment with Austin and Bischoff. Bischoff's all dying because of his hangover. His head's hurting him. He says he can't handle the redneck lifestyle. Stone Cold takes some beer, puts it under his nose. Bischoff almost throws up. Austin laughs. He walks out. He runs into Nash. Nash is all pissed off, and Austin's like, look, shut up. You kicked ass. You're still number one contender in my eyes. Austin says, you have the winner between Flair and Triple H, and Nash smiles about this. Nash likes it. Have a backstage segment with Triple H and Ric Flair. Flair's all happy, and he's thankful for the opportunity. He's like, oh my God, it's an honor to face you. I'll give it my all. I hope you give it your all. Triple H says, well, I chose you to stick it to Austin, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to lay down in the ring. I'll pin you 1, 2, 3. We both get the night off. We can go out on the town and celebrate. I'll still be the champ. It's a good day. So he walks off, and Flair's a little confused and kind of disappointed in himself. Then we have a highlight reel, Chris Jericho with special guest Christian. It's the debut of the new set, including the obscenely expensive Jeritron 5000. One of the great debuts in the history of Raw, if I do say so myself. So the new highlight reel set was up. It looked good. I loved the highlight reel set in 2003, 2004. I love the highlight reel. One of my favorite aspects of Chris Jericho's career. As if I haven't talked about Chris Jericho enough on my YouTube channel. Anyway. He shows the replay of the IC title battle royal where he went for a springboard. I think it was he went for the lion salt, and Christian dumped him over the top rope. Christian comes out with a new haircut and new clothes. Jericho's like, "What the fuck, bro?" And he's all pissy about everything. And then they go back and forth for a bit. Jericho pretends to be mad, and he's like, "Hey, I would have done the same thing." And he hugs him. Christian says he's a changed man thanks to his fans. He had a great line. "My heart beats for all my peeps." That was a great line. Made me laugh. And he said, "You can forget Clay and Ruben because I'm the real American Idol," which I thought was a great line too because, one, he's not American, which Jericho immediately pointed out, and the fact that it's American Idol reference on Monday Night Raw. And this is when I was actually watching American Idol. This is when American Idol was really popular. And side note about American Idol, that show should have been canceled the moment Simon Cowell left because he was the glue that held that show together. Anyway, that's my little mini rant done on American Idol. Jericho brings up how Christian technically lost because Booker T did eliminate him, but the referees never saw it, and Christian snuck back into the ring and got the win. Christian says Booker T is not championship material because he doesn't have wicked cool clothes and a sweet-ass haircut. Rob Van Dam comes out. He says Christian's catchphrase is weak. He said, "You got the belt. You're making the big bucks, but everyone knows that Christian still sucks." RVD challenges Christian. Christian says no. Jericho and Christian double team, but Kane comes out to make the save. Jericho and Christian kind of run away. Austin says, no, we're going to have ourselves a tag team match. Both of you get in the ring right now. Christian actually wrestles in this tag team match with his street clothes on, which I thought was hilarious. So it's Jericho and Christian versus RVD and Kane. This is your basic tag team match, literally the formulaic, heels get the heat, the babyfaces start out hot, they cut them off, get the heat, and then they get the hot tag. Hot tag was to Kane. There were choke slams from Kane. There was a 5-star interrupted by Jericho. Christian low blows Kane into a reverse DDT and then a lion salt. Kane kicks out. Jericho grabs some chairs for a concerto, and then Booker T comes out to make the save. RVD throws Christian in the ring where Booker T kicks Christian and does a little spinneroonie. This was a 2.5-star match. Nothing really exciting, but it was a perfectly fine match. Perfectly competent wrestlers in the ring right here. Chris Jericho, Christian, Rob Van Dam, Kane. They all know what they're doing in there. Nothing can really go wrong with these four. It was a perfectly fine match. I enjoyed it. And then before we went to a commercial break, we had a poll. Fans can vote on who we thought ran over Goldberg last week when he was coming out of his limousine. Now, I'm going to get to this poll later, but at first I thought you could vote for whoever you wanted, but I think they narrowed it down to 10 possible suspects, and we'll get into those suspects in a bit. Then we had a backstage segment, Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Shawn Michaels basically just came down. He said, "You can't lie down for Triple H. 15 years ago, you told the world that you were the measuring stick. You were the person that every wrestler should aspire to be like. You were the man. You put over Ric Flair like $1 million. As we all know, Shawn Michaels is a huge fan of Ric Flair in real life. And Flair said, "Do you think I'm the kind of guy that can go out there and beat Triple H right now?" And HBK said, "I know you can do it." And of course, Ric Flair cried. This is actually a really cool backstage segment. I kind of liked it. It wasn't that long. It wasn't that dramatic. But, the delivery on the lines was really, really good. As we all know, Shawn Michaels, I think, is one of the best actors to ever step foot in a wrestling ring. And Ric Flair, he's always emotional. He can get anything going. He's a great promo. No matter what Ric Flair touches, it's going to be gold. So, great segment here. Then we had a promo. Rodney, Mack, and Teddy Long came out to literally zero reaction. How, when a wrestler comes out and the entrance music's playing, the camera will often zoom out to see the crowd all rising to their feet to watch the entrance. This literally did not happen. I don't think anything moved. If you muted the TV, you really wouldn't have known anything was happening. Literally zero reaction. Complete zero reaction. Rodney Mack kind of just kind of stands there while Teddy Long just keeps going on and on. Long says all he just sees in the crowd are a bunch of bigots. Long says he's making an open challenge to a WWE established white boy. He's doing a 5-minute white boy challenge, and out comes Spike Dudley, probably the whitest of all the white boys in white boy history. Spike Dudley's 2 pounds, 3 feet tall. What a guy, but awesome opponent for Rodney Mack here. You got little Spike Dudley and this giant jacked Rodney Mack. Anyway, Teddy Long goes to commentary for the 5-minute White Boy Challenge. Teddy Long says JR had a black nana working for him. JR says no comment. Rodney Mack kind of just beats the shit out of Spike for a solid 4 minutes. I really wasn't paying attention to the match at all because there was a awesome moment on commentary. This was awesome. King told Teddy Long, because Teddy Long kept saying, after every sentence, he said, believe that, believe that, believe that. And then Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler both questioned him and said, do you really think that believe that will catch on with the people? And Teddy Long said, absolutely. Well, I got news for you, Teddy. It didn't catch on in 2003, and believe that did not catch on here in 2016. I thought this was an awesome moment. This is by far my favorite part of Raw. I laughed so hard at this because even in 2003, they were trying to get believe that over. So maybe it's not just Roman Reigns who can't get that over. Teddy Long couldn't get it over either. So maybe believe that is just a stupid catchphrase from the start. I don't think the coolest of the cool could make believe that a cool catchphrase. So that was a great moment right there. So in the last minute, these White Boy challenges often were like 2 minutes at the most. So the fans started noticing that Spike Dudley was actually nearing the end. And in the last 30 seconds, he gets put in a submission hold. I think it was maybe like a chicken wing or something. I can't remember what it was. But Spike Dudley was holding on, and there was probably 30 seconds left on this clock. The crowd erupted. They wanted to see Spike fucking Dudley give Rodney Mack his first loss in the White Boy Challenge. Because the way the White Boy Challenge worked, if you survived 5 minutes in the ring with Rodney Mack, you won, and Rodney Mack lost. The crowd went insane. The crowd was, I don't want to say dead, but they were just kind of had subpar reactions to everything because this was a average Raw. I mean, it was fine. It was a good Raw so far, but people were going crazy for this. I can't give this match a dud because, even though Rodney Mack was incredibly green and Spike Dudley, I always thought Spike Dudley was good, but, it's just, I don't think Spike Dudley is the caliber of wrestler to make, a green guy look like a star. No offense to him, to Mack or Dudley, but, just observations. But they got the crowd on the edge of their seats, and the crowd was going nuts for this. It was absolutely insane. I can't give this a dud. I got to give it a 1.5 merely on the last 30 seconds of the match, which was absolutely awesome. How long are we into this recording? 17 minutes. Great. And I'm not even halfway through. Awesome. Then we had a backstage segment with Bischoff and Austin. Bischoff keeps throwing up, and he's yelling through megaphones, and Stone Cold's banging trash can lids and yelling at Bischoff and everything. And he said the secret to a hangover is female entertainment. So he's like, I got some females for you. The door opens, and it's Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young, which was always a great time to see them. Then we had another backstage segment with Flair. He's in his robe. He's dancing around his locker room. He finishes off with a woo, just to show that Ric Flair means business. He's in his robe. It's Flair country. He's in the main event. Then we had a tag team match with La Resistance and Scott Steiner. Test and Steiner couldn't decide who was going to start the match. Steiner gets sent to the stairs. Stacy checks on him. Then they do a double team on Test for basically the entire match. Nothing happened in this match. It's a dud. Literally nothing happened. This match was literally only used as a way to further the storyline between Steiner and Test. They officially break up here, and both of them try to take Stacy with them. Both argue over who should get Stacy. Both try to guilt Stacy into going with them. Stacy eventually just gets pissed, says, fuck both of you, and she walks out on her own, making both Test and Steiner look like complete dorks, while Stacy, the only redeemable person, the only person with redeeming qualities in this little threesome here, she bails, and that was probably the best move for her. We had a backstage segment with Steve Austin. He gets the interrogation room ready for whoever it is that ran over Goldberg. Then we got the results of the poll. Who ran over Goldberg? We had 10 possible suspects here. At first, I thought these were the top 10 vote getters, but I don't know if that's true because one of these suspects got only 1% of the vote. So maybe other wrestlers got 0.3% of the votes. I don't know. I think it was WWE presenting 10 possible candidates, because if you could call in and say who it was, you could say, I don't know, fucking Road Dogg or Abdullah the Butcher or Hillbilly Jim ran over Goldberg, and I don't think WWE wants that on their television program. Anyway, the top 10 suspects were Christian, Ric Flair, Triple H, Chris Jericho, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Eric Bischoff, Teddy Long, Rodney Mack, and Lance Storm. Now, all those names are great, except for Lance Storm, who literally was not featured on Raw last week, and I don't think in the month prior. I think Storm had that little tag team run with Regal. They were the tag team champions earlier this year. I mean, when I say earlier this year, I mean 2003. But other than that, I don't think Lance Storm had been doing anything. I don't think he had any sort of altercation with Goldberg, maybe except that one time during Jericho's first highlight reel where people tried to, kill Goldberg. Maybe Storm was in that little group of people, but whatever. I'm getting off topic here. Anyway, the highest vote getter was The Rock, and King said, fans are stupid. They really thought The Rock did it. Haha, that was hilarious. So King basically just buried the fans. Christian was second place with 18%. I guess that makes sense. As we all know, it was Lance Storm who ended up doing it, and he was 4%. So we had a backstage segment with the interrogation room. Austin's in trying to get Storm to talk, and Storm is not talking at all. The interrogation room is basically just a black room with a chair and a single light, which the single light added a lot to the ambience of the interrogation room. I thoroughly enjoyed this scene. Storm says he's Canadian. We drive on the wrong side of the road. Austin says, you're full of shit. Lance Storm finally concedes. He says, okay, yeah, it was me. I swerved. I tried to miss him. It was an accident. Wasn't even my idea. Austin says, whose idea was it? Forget this. Get out of this chair. Get out of this room, go to the ring, and face Bill Goldberg. That's your punishment. Because Austin said whoever ran over Goldberg, their punishment was going to be a match with Goldberg instead of being arrested for attempted vehicular manslaughter, which is what this was. So, I guess in the world of WWE, the way to get absolved for vehicular manslaughter is a match with Goldberg. Makes sense to me. Not even going to question it. Then we had a backstage segment with Triple H in the trainer room. HHH is getting his ribs taped. Flair comes to talk to him. Flair says 6 months ago, Triple H saved him from obscurity. He got him back in the game. Flair said he's had a bunch of matches like Triple H where he got his ass kicked and he wrestled the next day without even complaining about it, like nothing even happened. Flair said he's not going to lay down for anyone anymore. Flair says he knows Triple H is hurt, but damn it, he better give it his all because the Nature Boy is coming, and he finishes it off with a woo. This was an amazing promo. I loved this promo. I can't do it justice just because I'm really tired right now and I'm really congested if you guys couldn't tell already. I'm sorry if my voice is really nasally and dry and, kind of like slobbery because I just have these really bad allergies right now. But this was an amazing promo. I loved every second of it. Flair was absolutely awesome. He was going nuts. Typical Flair stuff, but, always great. Then we had Goldberg versus Lance Storm. Goldberg's locker room was definitely not a locker room. That's one thing I want to point out right now. Like Goldberg had that entrance where he walked all the way backstage to the ring. And, obviously there's one giant locker room for all the wrestlers, but sometimes they'll give certain wrestlers their little own signs that they can hang outside their door just for, random rooms. Usually don't show the inside of the room, and if they do, they make sure it is a locker room. But when they open this door, there's just a bunch of pipes everywhere, so I think it was like a little bit of a boiler room that Goldberg was, stationed in. I just thought that was kind of funny. There really isn't much to talk about here match-wise. Goldberg just kind of kills him. What I found funny was, Lance Storm was freaked out of his boots. He wasn't like he entered this match confidently. He knew he was going to lose, and Goldberg was killing him. But JR still tried to put him over like the great, classy announcer that Jim Ross is, still trying to put Storm over as one of the most gifted, one of the best technical wrestlers on the roster. Didn't help Storm at all, though, because he got killed. I can't even give this match a rating because, well, what can I say? Nothing happened. So Goldberg chokes Lance Storm and says, who did it? And Lance Storm said, okay, I'll tell you. It was Jericho. And everyone's freaking out. JR and King are like, Jericho, what the hell is he doing with this? And Goldberg was laughing. Then they went to a commercial break, and then they came back, and they said, during the break, Coach interviewed Chris Jericho about Goldberg. Jericho said, I'll answer any questions Goldberg might have next week on the highlight reel. And he drove away in his car, which I might add, Jericho drove away wearing his ring jacket, tights, knee pads, and boots. I thought that was kind of funny. Then we had our World Heavyweight Championship match, Ric Flair versus Triple H. Flair's in Flair country. The fans were going nuts for Flair. There were Flair signs everywhere. Ric Flair was once again the star of Raw. Ric Flair comes out of the gate really hot. He's hitting him with the chops and the punches and the suplexes. Triple H retaliates, but only for a bit. Flair dominates. He's hitting all of his dirty moves, and he's also hitting a lot of, atomic drops and, the shin breakers and everything. And he hits a figure four early on. JR was going nuts. He goes for the figure four, locks it in. Crowd is hot for Flair. They're going absolutely insane. Even though it was obvious that Flair was not going to win the world title, they just had that suspension of disbelief that you need so badly in wrestling. And it's what made this match great. Triple H reached for the rope. He eventually got the rope break, and there were thunderous boos for it. And then we eventually got a sleeper hold from Flair, and it resulted in a ref bump. And Triple H eventually, gets the advantage, and he goes for the title belt. Flair ducks the belt shot, and he hits a thumb to the eye, a low blow, and then a belt shot. all in a row. So 3 dirty moves right in a row. Fans were going nuts. There was a long 2 count, again, for a ton of boos. And then eventually Flair goes for the pedigree. Triple H backdrops out of it. And then Triple H goes for the pedigree and hits it. The finish was kind of anticlimactic. I mean, the pedigree was the finish, obviously. I feel like if they built up the pedigree a little bit more, this match could have been something really awesome. I'll give it 3 1/4. This was a really good main event. I really enjoyed it. Triple H is celebrating his title win, and then all of a sudden Kevin Nash's music plays. Triple H makes the biggest oh shit face I've ever seen in my life. I thoroughly laughed at the oh shit face, dying the entire time. And then Triple H eventually escapes Kevin Nash's clutches. He lays down on the ramp, and then Austin follows right behind him, and he said, "Congratulations, you've got Kevin Nash, June 15th, Houston, Texas, Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell." And it was announced right then and there that the first main event for a Raw exclusive pay-per-view would be Triple H versus Kevin Nash for the World Heavyweight Championship in a Hell in a Cell match. Triple H freaks out. JR says his life has flashed before his very eyes. Hell in a Cell, Triple H, Kevin Nash, Raw goes off the air. So overall, this Raw, nothing to complain about here. It was actually a really good Raw. I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was a step up from the last Raw we just saw. It wasn't anything blow away on here. I mean, the main event, the whole angle of Ric Flair in Flair Country coming back for his big comeback match in the main event was really good. Flair made this Raw watchable, and I think the little segments of Flair throughout the entire show really held this show together. So overall, it's a very good show. I give it maybe like a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Nothing wrong with it. So hopefully I will see you guys next week, and I will be on time. But until then, goodbye.